Okay, the mayor is here. We can start. Welcome, everyone. Today is Tuesday, September 1st, and this is Scranton City Council's weekly caucus prior to our regular meeting at 6:30. We have quite a few important items on the agenda tonight, and the Mayor Cognetti is here with the Business Administrator Carl Deely, Fire Chief John Judge, and DPW Director Tom Priambo. They've been gracious enough to participate in our caucus tonight to discuss these items and answer any questions that we might have. Two of the major agenda items tonight are 5B, introduction of an ordinance approving the capital budget for 2021 pursuant to section 904 of the city's home rule charter, and 5C, an ordinance authorizing the city to enter into an intergovernmental cooperation agreement with Lackawanna County and the County Tax Claim Bureau to allow the Bureau to collect the city's delinquent real estate taxes. So those are the two items we're going to discuss. I think we'll start off with the capital budget. I'll turn it over to Mayor Cognetti now if you'd like to start by speaking on these items, and then we'll let the department heads and the business administrator as well speak on them, and then we'll take any questions from council members. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Hello, everyone. Nice to see you all. I cannot believe it is September 1st already. It's been a busy month since we last all saw you guys, but we're excited. Excited we're all back. We've got some good things coming up with the capital budget, and then as we put together the 2021 budget, we're looking forward to working with all of you to create that budget and really figure out, of course, how we're going to deal with revenue shortfalls, but also how we're going to be able to work together to reconfigure some of the ways that we provide services. We're excited about some of the things that we've found, and I think that a lot of us have talked together about the different departments, things that we could be doing better to better serve Scranton. So I think it's going to be a good fall. I'm looking forward, genuinely looking forward to working with all of you on that 2021 budget. 2020 has been a tough year for all of us, as we know. So even though the fiscal side of things is tough, I think working together, we're going to be able to do some really good things with that budget. So to start it off, the capital budget is first, and I have to give a lot of thanks to all of our department heads, but especially Business Administrator Carl Deely. He has worked so hard this summer to go through the different capital needs, and he'll explain the capital versus operating budget. I know you guys know what that is, but in looking at past budgets, the capital budget hasn't been utilized as a planning tool in the way that we think it could be. So what you have before you for consideration in the next few weeks is a capital budget that, while it's a wish list and we aren't sure that we'll be able to buy all of the things on that list, of course, this is really a tool to help us plan for the coming years. What are the things that we need to serve the city, for fire, for police, for DPW, for all of our departments? What are those things that we need to really be thinking about? So it's a great way to build in our minds, build what we want the city to look like, what we want our services to look like, and then build that out into a 3-year plan. And then, of course, that's in concert with the operating budget, which it would just be for the 1 year. So it really is a good tool, I think, underutilized before. And I will let Carl take over because I know that there's somebody in the background who disagrees with me. So.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, councillors. Yeah, so in terms of the capital budgets, from a capital perspective, the items on there are really kind of focused on those that have kind of a more of a longer term life expectancy in terms of expenditures on the city, rather than obviously the operational budget, which are kind of the more recurring cost. And there are some relationships clearly where we do put capital expenditures in, there may be some additional recurring costs due to maintenance fees, service costs, et cetera, that go along with that. And they will be included, obviously, in the operating budget, which is what we're working on right now. As the Mayor said, this has been very much a bottom-up process. So working with each of the departments to understand what the needs are for that department to adequately serve the needs of the city and on an ongoing basis. So we pushed this out from the focus is 2021 to 2023. And we do have some longer term items too, but this is the focus for this discussion. And obviously the notes that are associated with this are really focused on those key items that maybe we need a bit more detail, but obviously I can supply more detail on the other items too if required. So broadly speaking, in relationship to the projected reduction in revenues that we're going to see, obviously the second half of this year, which will carry across to 2021. We've kept that obviously at the back of our minds, and we really have tried to work hard on offsetting capital requirements as much as we can through 2021 into 2022. The main items, I think, which I'd say are the must-dos really for 2021, really two things. One is from an IT perspective, we have a new operating platform that's required. So this is where our main operating system, which is Finance Plus and Community Plus, is outdated and actually will no longer be supported as of next year. So we have to replace it or upgrade. So this is a major task for the city, not just from a capital perspective, but more from an operational point of view as well. So there's probably going to be repercussions in terms of operational changes, and in some cases there'll be workflow changes as well. So there's quite a long narrative there in the notes on that. The upside on this, it gives us an opportunity to really get into detail on the day-to-day workflows throughout the city, which is something that this administration wanted to do anyway, and I think has been carried over as well from previous administration. So it's something we have to do, and in relationship to getting everything ready so we can run on the new platform. In relation to that too, and I'll mention now, obviously we've had some difficulties over the last couple of weeks where we did have a cyber attack. There was no relationship to that, by the way, in the capital budget. The capital budget was completed before that, but it does heighten the fact that obviously we do need to look at our information systems and the data integrity. So this does give us an opportunity again to build in maybe more stringent security requirements into our data network, and that certainly was included in the capital budget. So that was just fortuitous. Unfortunately, obviously we did have a cyber attack just over a week ago, which we're still we're still working through. The other major item really is the building. Literally the building that we're in today. Whatever we do with this building, and I do understand there's been recurring conversations around what do we do with the municipal building longer term. But in terms of that, we really must repair the roof. It really is as simple as that. The spires on the roof, I think we've had various studies done on this over the years. The total build, the last one that was done by Highland, I think for the whole building was just over $10.5 million. What we've done is extracted from that what we only do for the roof and the spires. And the reality is, obviously being in this building kind of most days, it's truly remarkable that there's nothing kind of coming down on our heads. So it's something that must be done. In terms of what happens to the building longer term, I think that's something we should discuss, on sometime in the near future, in terms of what we should do in terms of ongoing expenditures and whether or not this building is actually suitable for its civic duties. So the amount in there, obviously we've got 2.9 million for 2021. We are upgrading those estimates. So right now we've got some more more recent updates in terms of what the cost could be, and alternatives as well in terms of the roof repair. Some of the recent ones I've got got some today. We're still in the realms of about 1.5 million. What this will mean too is that we will probably have to relocate certain services while that work is going on in City Hall. So also there's some money put aside for that in that number. So probably the fourth floor will probably have to be vacated at least. But it's certainly, we are at that point right now where I think it's kind of untenable. And if anybody does want to take a visit, they're more than welcome. We'll take a look through the building and see what's actually going on here. Other major expenditures which you'd expect is kind of a fleet management piece. So we're very fortunate there. We've now got a fleet manager on board as of, I think, 2 weeks ago. It's now working with DPW, which is going to be a big help to us. So what you'll see is the fleet program that we're putting in place is to ensure that we don't get a huge maybe drop off of vehicles that get retired, and then we have a huge expenditure, in a single year. So what we're doing is put a proper fleet management system in where we're maintaining vehicles, but also replenishing vehicles, at the appropriate rate. So you'll see that in the DPW lines. Obviously for police and fire, I think that's been going on for quite a few years now. So that's good practice. In terms of engineering, right now we have some we don't have really any immediate things that are put under capital. Now, in terms of the paving and, in terms of paving and roads, This is going to go into the operating budget as a normal maintenance item, because this is something we do on an annual basis. And we can talk to that. And obviously Director Priambo is on the call too, that can maybe comment on that if you have any questions. And in terms of the maybe any large items, I've put next, obviously in our fire department. So the fire department's got a couple of new trucks that were required. And the biggest expense item is a rescue truck. Which again, we generally lease over a 10-year period, kind of lease to buy. And so that number that you have in there for 2021, which is just under 77,000, will continue for, I think, over the next 10 years. And again, we have Chief John Judge on here to answer any questions if you've got anything particular about that. Overall, in terms of governance, something which absolutely has been lacking, and it's something I think that as maybe, has been probably a frustration, I think, probably for councils in the past and certainly for administrations, in terms of statuses and updates and the control of costs for projects has been lacking. So one of the things that we put is included in the budget summary is any projects going forward will have a designated project manager. They will have a project schedule with milestones. We will have weekly updates from those project managers. And on a monthly basis, we will have a status that, again, obviously we'll share with the administration and also with council. And certainly for some of the projects that are in flight right now, I've seen it firsthand, it is a problem. And obviously these issues need to be fixed in terms of governance. So those things are in place for current projects. We are backtracking on a couple of items, like Nova Umbrino project, also the emergency centre, which is, has been in flight for a couple of years now. So we're backtracking on some of those so that we can get a proper project management process in place and a schedule that we can track. So those are the highlights. Obviously, I've had a chance to read that, but I'll open it up to questions.
Yeah, does anyone from council have any questions for Mr. Deely, the mayor, Director Priambo, or Chief Judge?
Sure, I have a quick one. So the 2.9 is targeted for the roof only.
Yes.
Am I missing something? Okay.
No, it's absolutely right. So the roof consists of we have the spire, the towers and the spires and the flat roof as well. So when you look at the building, it's a mixture of kind of slate, flat roof. There's a lot of infrastructure as well that's included. So when you look at the report, you'll see that there's a lot of ironwork as well that's included. And of course, you can see quite clearly in terms of the main tower where you've got the stained glass window. So it includes all of that. So there's a lot of kind of civil engineering that's going on that roof. So it's not just, unfortunately, it's not just replacing slate or replacing the flat roof butyl liners. There has been some temporary fixes, I think, put up there, which again, are not really holding up. The key thing for me, I think, right now is the safety of this building and also the safety of the people that are walking around it. And again, we've had some recent surveys done. So we've had obviously our maintenance manager have been up there and taken a look at it more recently. And that's why we wanted to do a new assessment of not just in terms of the costs, to see how that falls into the 2.9 million, which is taken from an older report, but also we do need to assess it from a safety perspective. So it's a big number.
Anyone else have any questions about the capital budget?
I would say, sorry, just Carl, you should just mention the RACP, I would say.
Yeah, so actually you'll see it on the summary. We've done our best to identify the funding for all of these projects that we have in here, and in particular for the roof. We are applying for a RACP grants. There's one available. There's potentially it's no match, which we're pursuing right now. And that goes, obviously, any of these projects, we try to identify potential grants and funds that obviously can supplement the city's finances going forward.
Now, Carl, do you know the timeline for that RACP funding? Is that did the city submit an application for that yet, or what's the process?
Yeah, so we're actually gathering the information right now. That's why we're trying to get the updated study to support that. I know we have put some requests in for that money, but also I think we've got a September deadline as well for I think for the one that we're talking about here with the roofing. But also we started a review kind of each month on what grants are available that we can tap into. So, and the way to look at this is there's grants and funding which is out there that maybe we haven't been applying for, that we don't have projects for. So we want to look at that because there may be projects that we have maybe that are lower on the list that we can pull forward. And then we have the projects that we've identified that we need, that we want to identify, are there grants available? So we're looking at it from both points of view. And again, we do have a schedule, if like, of what grants are open and the opening times, and when obviously we need to get the submissions in for. But for this particular one, we're looking to get that in for September.
And is there a plan in place I know you have an $80,000 grant in hand. Is there a plan in place to spend that before the end of the year?
There is, yes. And that grant right now, we're looking at using that for, I think it's going towards the IT requirements that we have, because we've got to do some process changes. So in terms of, one of the things we don't want to do from a technical perspective is we don't want to digitize a bad process. So obviously it makes sense to look at the processes that we have across City Hall, improve those, and then obviously digitize it that way. So yeah, we can use that now because we've already started that process. We're very heavily now into the understanding of all the workflows, all of the connectivity, if you like, that we need in terms of data, so that when we do get the RFP out, which we're planning before the end of this year, is to get the RFP out for our service provider for the technical side of things on the ERP, then we'll have all the data that we need in order to get that thing going really quickly. And also reduces the cost.
The grant that you have a grant on hand that the city already received for the roof, right? An $80,000 grant, is that correct?
That I don't know. I'll have to check on.
I thought I read that.
No.
Yeah, in the report it says we have an $80,000 grant from the Historical and Museum Commission, which must be used before December 31st, 2020. So my question was, is there a plan to use that funding, and in what way before the end of the year?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, for that one, yes.
Okay.
I was thinking of not RACP, sorry, yeah, it's the heritage one.
Oh, that's okay.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Kyle, I think in time it looks like you guys have questions.
Yeah, just on the cost estimates that were in the Highland report. I would just advise just to be skeptical of them. I know I mentioned this to you before. I think it was in there. They estimated like $50,000 for replacements to the windows above the door coming into City Hall, and I think former Mayor Evans, replaced them for 11.
Yeah.
So just be cognizant of that. Looking at those numbers. Just a couple quick. So for example, like when it says information technology and the projected cost is $936,000, and then underneath it's the operating platform at $300. Is that a part of the 936 or in addition to?
No, that's part of, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then the additional then would just be the hardware, network, and software security.
That's right. So in terms of the services and things that go along with that, yes, will be the ongoing services of that.
Okay. And under the fire department, and maybe Chief Judge could answer this. It says the fire department will secure an LSA grant funding for the acquisition. So are we in the process of trying to secure that, or do we already have that in hand?
We don't have it in hand yet. In my notes, it's a possible LSA grant to fund that for the rescue truck.
That's all I have for right now.
Okay. Councilman Schuster?
Yeah, so just to start off, when I'm looking at section 904, it says that we should be giving methods of financing. So with all of the departments I see, there's segments that are in there that are financing parts of these pieces for each of these departments, but the total funding isn't in there. And I understand that if we're going out for grants and things, it's not going to be totally in there. But as we move closer, are we going to identify the funds before we move ahead with the projects, or how would that occur?
No, absolutely. And I think as we start building the operating budget as well, as you say, we need to identify those before we move forward with any of these. And I think I say that at the beginning of the summary document. The proviso on these is that obviously the funding is available. So yeah, we have in terms of the control, obviously of any funding that we get in addition to our general fund, yeah, we're going to track that for each project, and we won't start that project until we have sufficient funding, and that's a proviso to it.
Yeah, and that's pretty much standard operating procedure of the city.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think you've seen maybe again, there's some projects that are ongoing right now that maybe I think that have just taken too long because we just haven't had the clear view, right, where that funding's coming from for those projects. So they get dragged out, and then we end up with obviously projects that are maybe should have been started and completed within months, and they're just dragging out for years.
Yeah, thinking about that, I'm thinking about the Sorrenti Center. I know recently there was an article for there was some plumbing and electrical done for $25,000, and then recently we got an email from Ms. Cipriani saying about $66,000, and then when we're seeing this the capital budget here, we're seeing a total of about $300,000. Now, is that $25,000 and that $66,000 included in the $300,000 total?
No, it's not. In fact, talking about this today, I'm actually going up to that building this week to meet with the current project manager on this to review it, because that $300,000 is our estimate of what we need to complete the building. And we are actually going for a grant for that, which again is going to, right now we think it's going to amount to about $250,000. But the intention is to try and tie these things together. So currently, yeah, we do not have a project schedule to finish that building, which obviously is not acceptable. So we need to get the project schedule, what needs to be done in what sequence to get that building completed, because it's absolutely going to be a great asset for the city. And it's something obviously we've already spent a lot of time and effort on. So we've got to tie those two things together. What's the requirements to get the building to the point where it's going to be usable for its full intent, and then obviously tie that to the funding and the availability of that funding. Because a lot of this money is going to come from a grant. That's the plan. And when that grant actually is issued to us, again, I don't know what that date is. So that's why we need to kind of tie those two things together.
Now, it seemed like there was say a running tab, and I don't know if that's how it was written in here, but was it about 420 up until July of 2020 was spent on that building?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah.
And that's over past administrations as well, correct?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. And I know we're thinking about right now with the pandemic, and maybe it's used for the pandemic, but the work that we're putting into this building goes towards the future plans of this building and centralizing a lot of that there. How many buildings do we have, and how many areas are we renting most areas around the city, or how are those other spaces that we're using?
No, we're not renting, but it's a good point in terms of we are actually, again, going through this kind of asset reconciliation right now for buildings and for rolling stock, so that we understand obviously what buildings we have and what's also rolling stock we have. So we can, first of all, is understand that we have a clear picture of what we have. And then in terms of the use of those buildings, the buildings that we have, we own, and currently the buildings are being used, whether some of it's for storage, but I think it's something we need to look at obviously quite holistically, right, in terms of how we use the buildings, and do we need those buildings in fact. So looking forward, there may be some opportunities to consolidate, right, to think which has maybe been done in the past, and reduce expenditures and maybe even get some additional revenue on those things.
So is that, do we have enough room at that location to consolidate all of those spaces? Or is that in the process still?
Yeah, and that's one of the things we want to look at, absolutely. And that's why I think we need to have a much more detailed plan, right, in terms of what that building's use is. So we've got a good narrative now, I think, from PD in terms of what the use of that building is for. Now what we need to do is ascertain the space that's up there, because it's a big building, and there's also surrounding, it's got surrounding land, right? It's got a lot of parking area as well. So yeah, there's definitely an opportunity there to co-use that area for other things. Now there may be some restriction on that, because I think when we bought the land, and I'm looking at the original contract when we took over the building, there are restrictions of use from FEMA. So there are some things there that do come into play. But certainly, as much as we can, obviously, it makes it easier to manage on a day-to-day basis. And also from a cost perspective, I think improving the density of any of our building and real estate is obviously in the interests of ongoing costs and ongoing maintenance for the city.
And
Yeah.
maybe something else to, sorry, go ahead.
So just to hop in, just like talking about the fleet list alongside with we have a whole asset list project going on. There's the fleet with the vehicles, and then also all of our land and buildings. So we're still working through all of that of who has what, who's got a lease where. You know, there's different things that pop up. You know, we're still digging out some of these things where people will say, oh yeah, there's that city property there, and it's, you know, something that we didn't realize that we had. So we're still going through all of that to make sure that we all, everyone on this call, has a full picture of what are the leases, what are the buildings, what is the land, how can we be doing this better? Are there things that are going to roll off, and it was something that we want to, you know, extend the lease? Do we want to sell the property? Do we want to have some use it for city purposes? You know, those are things that we need to all make decisions, but we want to have that holistic picture of what we have, so that we're not making these one-off decisions. We want to be able to have a better base of information.
Yeah, like some of the buildings that come to mind, I think of right at the bottom of the Morgan Highway there. I don't know if the highway unit is still there, or up off of
Exactly.
Yeah.
Up off of Prescott Ave there by Mansour's. There's the old fire station in there. Now, are some of the old maintenance buildings still on that property? Because that was a military maintenance shed. And I know you said that FEMA had like restricted use there, but can we use some of that land for maybe possibly maintaining our fleet in that area?
Possibly, yeah. I think, you know, I say that it's a big area, and we already are using it for storage, for obviously some vehicles right now. But again, I think we need to. This is where I think we need a full assessment, right, in terms of what we have, and also what we've got its intended purposes, and then we'll have, hopefully, there's going to be some other co-use opportunities there.
Okay. And I mean, a cost benefit is somewhat embedded in this whole assessment.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Rothschild, any questions?
I think all mine have been asked, so I'm pretty good at this time. Thank you.
Okay. I just have a few. Mr. Dealey, under the enterprise improvements, you talk about kind of replacing that. It says in the capital budget that you're anticipating funding through federal COVID relief in the range of $30,000 to $40,000.
Yes.
Could you just explain, you know, how that works, and if that the COVID relief reimbursement would it cover that type of expenditure, and how sure are we that would be allowable?
Yeah, so you're right. It's actually it's quite a small amount in comparative to the overall cost, and as we've kind of looked at these opportunities, things with COVID, we have, in terms of supporting remote working, that's number one, is an opportunity there for remote working. The second thing is for obviously public access in terms of information to city services, city halls, etc. So that's kind of the underlying reasoning behind this. And we have obviously, we've been talking with obviously OECD been leading this conversation, but it is unclear, I was thinking how likely that we will get that money. But right now they're saying, yes, if it's going to support remote working, it's going to support kind of obviously the ability for citizens to access information where they normally wouldn't. Yeah, we may get some funding for that, but it won't be a great amount. Like I say, I think it's going to be, maybe 30 to 50,000 at the most.
Okay. On the Serenity Center, briefly, what I would like to see, if we could, an itemized breakdown from the very beginning of this project to now on the money that has been spent, what it's been spent on. I know in talking with Chief Graziano in the past, he's provided responses to us that most of the expenditures were covered by grant money. But I think it would be beneficial just to see what grant money and exactly a full picture of what's happened there. And then the other thing on top of that is how much it costs to actually run that building, utilities, maintenance. If we're going to be spending a lot of money there, I think it would make sense to game that out. And do we know, I know what the plans are moving forward, but do we know what currently is happening there right now, how that building is functioning? Are there employees in there? Is there, maybe Chief Judge can answer this. Is the training division isn't in there yet, is it?
No, they're not.
No. Oh,
You go.
sorry, Carl.
No, you-
Nobody's in there right now. It's basically, they're doing the police, I know, do some training there with the EOD unit. We do some training there on a regular basis. We have a training trailer and prop in there. We have a lot of our technical rescue equipment from the Northeast Regional Terrorism Task Force that is stored in that building along with the police. But nobody's working there on a daily basis that I'm aware of.
Okay. On DPW, I saw that there is a trial study, which I support, for the vehicle GPS and the route management. Maybe Director Preamble can just talk about this program and how long that might take. I think you said it might be the whole fourth quarter, and then you're going to look at what the results were to see if you're going to move forward with it.
Yes, that's correct, Councilman Gahn. We have a trial study for some of our fleet vehicles here for additions to GPS network. It will help us with some routing management. The trial period includes 10 vehicles for 3-month period. So at a no cost to the city of Scranton. We'll be able to see those results that will be calculated through the trial period, and we'll be able to identify any ROIs and make some projections going forward in future budgets. So it's a good trial at no cost to the city of Scranton. The supplier will be doing the install to 10 vehicles, and they will provide all of the additional hardware that's required. And all the data points will be collected and stored for future use and analysis. It's really going to be very helpful in us to provide some modern efficiencies in the collections of our refuse and recycling going forward, to help make sound judgments in creation of future budgets as well, and staffing.
Okay, that's great. One of the big projects in here is the replacement of the bridges throughout the city. Is there money already allocated for that? I believe that there was money put away for that a year or two ago. I think the match is $1.5 million. Is that in an account someplace in the budget?
Carl, do you know that answer?
I don't. We'll have to take a look at that from, we'll see what's carried over in terms of what is available. It's allocated to that particular project.
Yeah, that's one of the things I was going to bring up too. I think you guys did a really good job on putting this document together. The one thing that I would like to see that maybe isn't as clear is, we know that, most of this is a wish list, but what on this list is there already money allocated, maybe from previous budgets, the previous capital budget, that we already have on hand? I guess that would be, I think that would be good to see. And then in terms of the flood control projects, I know that there's money in here for stormwater management, Kaiser Valley Merrifield Pump Station. Can you just talk to that, the stormwater management aspect of it? I know that's something that has come up at council meetings now for the past few years.
Tom, can you speak to that?
Sure, I'd be happy to. So there's various projects that are out there right now that we're seeking additional grant funding for. The Meadowbrook Flood Protection Project for the utility relocation is scheduled to go into 2021, 2023, and that's estimated at $2 million. There'll be engineering and acquisition of right-of-ways. So that's one of the projects. The Kaiser Valley Merrifield Pumping Station project, slated for 2023, is it's going to require some extensive analysis and survey, engineering survey work to be done. That's estimated at $1.5 to $3 million. And we're hopeful that there's some H2O DCED grants and DCNR grants that are available to the city that will be able to tap into those funds through requests. Many of these require, especially the Merrifield pumping station, it requires a detailed engineering analysis to be completed first to go along with the submittal for the application of grant funding. And so there's some front-end costs that the city has to incur in order to just be able to benefit from those grants in order to do that infrastructure project. The Roaring Brook flood project that we have on here now, that is has been rated recently by the Department of Environmental Protection and some of the other individuals with the Army Corps of Engineers, that the project has been cited, or the current project, the current flood control project for the Roaring Brook has been rated as deficient. So that really is a high priority. There's much structural issues with the basin itself and the flood walls. It does appear that it will hold quite a bit of water from some of the floods that we had recently. You might remember in August of 2018, it actually was coming across and it breached the banks, and it was coming down to River Street, down into the South Washington Avenue area. But there is quite a bit of work that needs to be done on that. That funding is still being explored for the city. But however, there would be some FEMA money that's already being allocated through the state agency. So I hope that answers some of your question.
Yes, it does. And last question from me. In terms of the stormwater management, kind of the plan that Hubert, Rowland, and Grubik, the city hired them a few years ago. Is there any update on that? I know council's asked in the past just for a general update on, are we moving forward with partnering with the county and partnering with other, cities and boroughs throughout Lackawanna County in terms of how we approach stormwater management and our MS4 permit? So is there any update on that you can provide at this point?
We need to be having those talks. COVID has derailed that process, and we have not been talking with the counties and other boroughs about stormwater specifically. We've been talking with them, as you all know, about the public health crisis. So what you see in front of you is the the city's assessment of it, of minimal what we need in the next 3 years on this, but it doesn't include discussions with the county or other boroughs for stormwater. So that is something we all know we need to get going on that and figure that out. But that working group, we've been working on the public health piece. So we need to refocus on stormwater.
And I do know that Hubert, Rowland, and Grubik was putting together, basically a plan to move forward. So if we at some point, and I think this has to be going on 1.5 years or 2 years now that they've been working on this. So if we at some point can have them come in and update us on the progress that we've made, or that they've made rather, I think that would be really helpful.
Yeah, we can do that.
Definitely.
I don't have any more questions on the capital budget. We only have about 4 minutes, so we have to start a regular meeting. Does anybody have any questions on the capital budget before we move on to the intergovernmental cooperation agreement?
Now that we were talking about Kaiser Valley, is there other projects going on there? I know we talked about the Kaiser Creek thing and that Lindy Creek. Are there other projects there other than just the pump station project, or is that all tied together?
Actually, Councilman Schuster, that would actually be all tied together in that engineering assessment that needs to take place first. So we're working on an RFI or an RFI for an RFP. I'm sorry, an RFP for an engineering study to actually do a complete assessment of all of the needs that are in that entire Kaiser Valley area. As you know, it's not just in the Kaiser Valley Basin area itself. It's actually west of Kaiser Avenue going uphill. It affects the Fawnwood Heights, Fawnwood development area, and up in the Newton area. So there's a larger impact that we need to take a very methodical and analytical approach to it. And having a bona fide engineering study to help guide us through all of the issues that are up there is really long overdue. And we're in a position right now that we're moving forward with that assessment.
All right, thank you very much. I'm happy to say that. And I was going to say thank you to the mayor. We did take a walk out there with member of DPW. We took a walk all the way up to the turnpike and worked it coming down. Mayor, if you want to jump in there, I see you.
Yeah, well, Councilperson Schuster, thank you. That was a fun day. Those are it's fun to get out and actually be outside and walking around and seeing the problems firsthand. So thank you for that tour. And Chris Jenkins from DPW is great on these issues and is really focused on flood control and Kaiser Valley and Roaring Brook and everywhere else, but really trying to figure out what we can do with Kaiser Valley. I just wanted to say with the study that Director Priambo was talking about, we talk about funding, all of these grants require a study first. And so these, as you guys know, and I know we feel studied to death and government can study things to death. And there are times where we definitely don't need any more studies. This is one of those times where we've got to get this study done. It is long overdue, and that will unlock some of these funds for us. And I think for flooding like this, issues like this, our infrastructure issues, I'm hoping that infrastructure is something that, we can get help with at the federal and state level coming up. We desperately need it. And it's, in addition to, the coordinated, regional stormwater, figuring out what that response is. We so badly need it. Because somebody asked me the other day, they're like, well, what's on the mind of people in Scranton? I said, look, right now it's hurricane season, the storms are coming, people just want to make sure their basements aren't getting flooded, right? We can't focus on other things if we're worried about stormwater filling up our homes. So it's really important, and I appreciate you guys I think everyone on this call is very focused on it.
Yeah, so thank you for clarifying that. I didn't know if they were separate studies or if it was all one. So I guess that clarifies that. I mean, maybe we start at the turnpike there. I think that opened up our eyes there that some of that flooding coming into Kaiser Valley might begin with the turnpike. So bringing the state in. But thank you.
Okay, it is 6:29. We have to start our regular meeting here at 6:30. We still do have one major item to discuss on the agenda, and that's the intergovernmental cooperation agreement between the city and the Tax Lien Bureau. I don't know, Mayor, if you want to stick around until fourth order, or if you can't, then we would certainly appreciate next week if it's going to be on the agenda for 3 weeks. So if you want to come back next week, that would be fine as well.
Yes, Solicitor O'Brien is planning to come next Tuesday. He wasn't able to make it tonight, so he'll be able to answer questions in more detail then. But if you'd like me to stay on, I can stay on tonight as well. It's up to you.
Okay. All right. Great. Okay, we are going to get ready. We're going to actually start our regular meeting. Okay, if everyone could please take a moment and stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. We'll call this public meeting to order. I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If everyone would please remain standing for a moment of silent reflection for our servicemen and women throughout the world, and also for those who have passed away recently in our community. Let us also take a special moment of silence tonight for people in our community and throughout the United States and the world who are suffering or who have passed away from the coronavirus. May those who are sick receive the proper treatment and recover, and may their caregivers, families, and neighbors be shielded from the onslaught of this virus. Let us give solace to those who grieve the loss of their loved ones. Let us thank the doctors, nurses, researchers, and all medical professionals and first responders who seek to heal and help those affected and who put themselves at risk in the process. We continue to hope that their work may conquer this disease and restore communities to wholeness and health. Whether we are home or abroad, surrounded by many people suffering from this illness or only a few, let us stick together, endure together, mourn together, persist and prepare together, and in place of our anxiety, let us continue to hope and find peace. Thank you. Ms. Carrera, roll call, please.
Mr. Schuster,
Present.
Mr. McAndrew,
Present.
Dr. Rothschild,
Here?
Mr. Donahue,
Here.
Mr. Gahn.
Here, please dispense with the reading of the minutes.
Thank you. Third order. 3A, correspondence received from Lackawanna County Solid Waste Management Authority dated July 28, 2020, regarding agreement with Lackawanna Recycling Incorporated. 3B, Single Tax Office City Funds Distributed Comparison Report 2019-2020, year-to-date July 31, 2020. 3C, minutes of the regular meeting of the Scranton Redevelopment Authority held July 2020. 3D, minutes of the Civil Service Commission meeting held July 16, 2020. 3E, fuel card analysis received from Office of the City Controller for the period May 24 through June 23, 2020. 3F, check received from Comcast in the amount of $259,866.75 for quarterly franchise fee. 3G, correspondence dated August 14, 2020 from Thomas Anderson and Associates regarding the financial requirements and minimum municipal obligation for the City of Scranton's pension plan for 2021. 3H, Controller's Report for month ending July 31, 2020. 3I, minutes of the non-uniform municipal pension board meeting held July 15, 2020. 3J, agenda for the non-uniform municipal pension board meeting held August 19, 2020. 3K, minutes of the Scranton-Lackawanna Health and Welfare Authority meeting held January 16, 2020. 3L, fuel card analysis received from Office of the City Controller for the period June 24 through July 23, 2020. 3M, minutes of the Composite Pension Board meeting held July 15, 2020. 3N, agenda for the Zoning Hearing Board meeting to be held September 2, 2020.
Thank you, Mrs. Reed. Are there any comments on any of the third order items? If not, received and filed. Do any council members have any announcements at this time?
I have one. Our friends at Friends of the Poor of Scranton wanted me to let everybody know that our food pantries in West Scranton and South Side are open during the week. West Side, Jackson Terrace at 148 Meridian Avenue is open Mondays, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays from 10 a.m. to 1:30. Wednesday, they're closed in support of the off-site food distributions. Over in Southside, Valley View Terrace, Building 9, food pantry is open. It's on 950 Pear Street, open Monday through Friday, 9:30 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. All other pantry locations in the city are closed. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman McAndrew. Anyone else have announcements?
I would just like to extend congratulations to the graduates of this school year, and also to extend condolences to the family of Judith Hadley.
Thank you, Councilman Schuster. Anyone else? I have three announcements. First, I just wanted to say that Scranton Police Chief Carl Graziano is retiring, as everyone saw it recently from the announcement and in the newspaper, effective September 11th, to take a position as Lackawanna College's Director of Public Safety. As I said to the newspaper, I really think that there's big shoes to fill there. Chief Graziano has done a great job and has been an outstanding leader in the police department. So I want to thank him for his service. He became a patrolman in October of 1992 and then became acting police chief in 2012. And he's done an absolutely fantastic job. The next announcement I'd like to make is the Scranton Together neighborhood initiatives will continue through September. The events will run from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. at the following locations: Wednesday, September 2nd, Connell Park; Friday, September 4th, City Hall; Wednesday, September 9th, Weston Field; Friday, September 11th, Fellows Park; Monday, September 14th at Trips Park; Wednesday, September 16th at Billy Barrett Park; Friday, September 18th at Naog Park; Monday, September 21st in Pine Brook; Wednesday, September 23rd in Kaiser Valley. There was just recently a neighborhood initiative the other day at the park in my neighborhood, and I can tell you that the turnout was great. I think this is a fantastic initiative, bringing City Hall to the neighborhoods, and I've heard nothing but good things from neighbors, and I think we should continue, the administration should continue to do more things like this. It really is helpful. And last announcement from me, next Monday, September 7th, the Labor Day holiday will be observed. City Hall will be closed and DPW will be off this day. Refuse and recycling will be 1 day behind next week, the week of September 7th. And that's all I have. Mrs. Reed?
Fourth order, citizens' participation.
Thank you, Mrs. Reed. Will someone please make a motion to accept public comment from the following citizens, Thomas Coyne and Faye Franis?
I make the motion to accept public comment.
I'll second.
On the question? On the question, we did receive and review Mr. Coyne's comments. I don't believe there was any questions there from Mr. Coyne. Ms. Franis also submitted, I believe, 6 questions that we will get answered. Some of them had to do with ECTV and the Comcast franchise money that was in third order tonight. So there's some specific questions there. And then there are 2 questions about Scranton tomorrow and a question about the University of Scranton. So we will get those questions answered, and we'll get back to Ms. Franis on that. Anyone else on the question? Also, I failed to mention as well, public comment is placed into the official record and our official minutes. The minutes can be accessed by going to www.scrantonpa.gov and going to council's webpage. Any questions that were posed to council that would be better served to the administration, we get that to the correct department. If anyone would like to view the comments that have been submitted, please go to the webpage and review the minutes. They are there. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved. Mayor Cognetti, thanks for sticking around. The one item that we did not get to in the caucus, which I think is extremely important and something that I've been pushing for since 2015, is the transfer of the delinquent tax collection, real estate tax collection from NRS, a private company, to the tax claim bureau, county tax claim bureau, which is a no-brainer in my opinion. So if you just want to talk about that, maybe what the next steps are, what the transition looks like, and anything else you might want to add.
Sure. So last time we had caucus about probably 6 weeks ago, I know we had talked about NRS, and I was not ready to state unequivocally that we would be done with the contract by the end of December. There was still some legal study and discussion that needed to happen, but I am absolutely ready to say that we will be done with that contract at the end of December of this year. So I wanted to make sure that we studied every, and it was new to Solicitor O'Brien, new to me coming in. There's a long history there that dates back, I believe, since 2011. There's a lot there that we wanted to make sure that we were making our decisions based on all the information that we could gather and the conversations that we needed to have. But now I can say we will absolutely be done by the end of December. Which is, I agree with you. It's great news, and it will really move us forward. So we're pleased to put in front of you an intergovernmental agreement where we would work with the county, which I do think makes the most sense for a variety of reasons. When we talked earlier about technology, and we've been talking about our processes and our systems, so much of real estate, we have to be working with the county anyway for deeds and those types of things. There's a lot of information that needs to transfer. To have the county then be collecting the property taxes actually makes a lot of sense for a variety of technical reasons, and I think it's a win to have the city and the county be working together in that way. So what you have in front of you is the property tax piece of it. The refuse piece, we do plan to, we're talking with the county. We're also would probably issue an RFP for the refuse piece of it. Mary Jo Sheridan and Wayne Beck are, thanks to both of them, actually they're doing a thing similar to Carl Dealey and Pat Sheridan in June, where they're sharing the job for a few weeks so we have a smooth transition. Mary Jo and Wayne are working out, really digging in what should that RFP look like, what should those delinquent fee, what should that whole process look like? Both the sale of the delinquencies, which we're valuing, but those might end up being tied in with an RFP for our delinquent fees going forward. It might be that we would package those together. So we're still looking at that. I'm excited to have Wayne and Mary Jo both working on that right now. But keep that in mind as you review this, that what's right in front of you right now is the real estate piece. And then that the refuse will come to you either in the form of an RFP where we've selected somebody, or potentially it would also be with the county, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure that the county would have the bandwidth. The refuse fees for a city of our size is definitely a large scale project, but we're making those assessments right now.
Okay, great. Does anybody have any questions on this agenda item for Mayor Cognetti?
I don't have a question. I just have a comment. I think it's wonderful that we're going to partner with the county for the collection of these fees, intergovernmentally. We've been talking about intergovernmental and shared services for, a year now, between the school board and us and the county. So this is a very good first step with regards to, teaming up and partnering in some of these situations. That's all I have. Thanks.
If I could hop in, thank you, Councilman McAndrew. I wanted to make sure that you guys know there was a news about 10 days ago coming out of the federal courthouse that detailed that the county had offered this in many years ago, predating, I believe, all of us on this, even Councilman Gahan. I think it might have even been right before you took office. The offer was 5% commission. Next week, Solicitor O'Brien will come and detail the agreement more. He can give you more of the detail, but that 5% remains. It's baked into the intergovernmental agreement. The county would take 5% commission versus the 15% that NRS got through the means they did. So I just wanted you guys to know that 5, and you see it in the document before you, but I wanted to know, that was my first question was, well, I want to make sure this agreement is the same level that it would have been. So we're getting back to where the city should be in terms of paying for the service.
Definitely. Any questions for Mayor Cognetti?
I'm assuming that commission fee, would that go towards perhaps like their staffing needs in order to allocate the time to go through their taxes? Is that?
That's my understanding. I won't speak for the county, but it's for their operation. Same is my guess, but in my mind, it would be similar to OECD. We charge an administrative fee in OECD. That's to help with our staff time that we spend evaluating projects and things like that.
Okay.
And I believe the 5% is statutory, right, Kevin?
It is.
It's set by state law.
So if you don't see it in the intergovernmental agreement, it may not say 5%, but statutorily, it's the cap that the county can charge for administrative fees. So it's a savings for us.
Absolutely.
Big time.
Thank you.
I have one more quick point.
Oh, sure. Go ahead, Mark.
Since we're talking about collecting the fees, and so next year, I know it was too late this year. The garbage fee itself, and it's August, so well, actually it's September. So I know it was too late last year. I just like to know what thoughts or what's being at least discussed, because believe it or not, people are still left with that question that they come to me all the time saying, well, Mark, I thought we were going to do this, right? And so I think, it relates to this, what we're talking about. So I'm just throwing it out there to see if there's any discussion or plans.
That's absolutely what that's the goal, and Mary Jo and Wayne are working on seeing what the feasibility is with that for next year.
Mark, the issue with the refuge fees is the reason they couldn't be included in this agreement is because they would have to have been printed on the tax bills. So the earliest we could do that is 2022 with the county. Not saying that that's the direction that the city, that's going to be up to the administration and council to decide, but we couldn't do it before 2022. So as the mayor indicated, and as Solicitor O'Brien and I have been in discussions, the thought would be to have an RFP for the collection of the refuge, at least for 2021. Maybe beyond, maybe not.
I don't mean the collection of delinquents. I'm talking about how are we going to collect the fee itself moving forward, whether it's a fee or is it rolled into the taxes like this was discussed.
Okay.
That's that my question was more regarding towards that.
Okay.
Yeah, we're studying to see if that can happen. That would be ideal for a range of reasons. Whether or not it can happen for next year, we'll see. But what's great, we have two treasurers working on it right now, which is nice. It'd be nice if we could have that for a while, but it's only for a few weeks.
Okay, any other questions? All right, Mayor Cognetti, thank you for coming. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you all very
Mayor.
much.
Thank you. Okay, Mrs. Reed,
Fifth order, 5A motions.
Councilman Schuster, do you have any motions or comments?
None at this time.
Thank you, Councilman Schuster. Councilman McAndrew, any motions or comments?
I do have a comment, and it's I'm inquiring for a couple residents, and myself included. So it's been brought to my attention. I know this happens. It's happened to me recently where, say, the night before garbage collection over here in West Side, it's Friday, that some people come from, other parts of the area that don't live here and bring bags of garbage and drop it and run. Or an instance where I had a tire leaned against the back of my garage in the alley. Someone that doesn't want to dispose of it by themselves. I don't know if that's from out of the area, or someone dumped behind my garage a big branch, it was part of a tree that was taken down. But regards to that, what is the ordinance regard to that? And my understanding is, there is a fine out there. I just want some clarity. Maybe we can reach out to the city and have an understanding. This was also brought to my attention by Marty Flynn also, that he's seen this and has heard about it, our state rep. But I guess it occurs more than we realize because now it's being brought to my attention. And, places like, say, on Main Avenue, when it's maybe 11 o'clock at night, people are putting bags of garbage that don't live here just because they don't want to pay the per bag wherever else they live. So I guess, and my understanding is the police know about it. I don't know if there's a fine. I don't know if we can stiffen that fine or at least take a look into it and see where we're at with that. So it doesn't get any, so we can prevent or have some type of deterrent from this to continue to happen. If Mrs. Reed, if you could please, or if anybody can speak to that who already knows, that'd be fine too.
Councilman, I know that there is a ordinance on the books for dumping. In other words, you can't dump without, in public or in private receptacles without the owner's permission by any, so in other words, it's declared a nuisance and it's prohibitive. I could get, additional information, but I know that there's at least one ordinance on the book that would prohibit that.
Okay, thank you. Maybe we can just get a copy of it. I just
Sure.
for my own sake,
You got it.
people that are inquiring, I can provide them with this information.
I'll send it over to you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Councilman McAndrew. Dr. Rothschild, do you have any motions or comments?
Yes, I do have one comment. Over the past month since we were off, I've continued to receive complaints like we usually would and emails from people living in Scranton. A lot of the complaints, majority of them are about like overgrown weeds and grass this time of year at various properties throughout the city. And so I just want to let people know that I have forwarded those along to whatever appropriate department that it should go to. I don't always get a response as to whether or not something is completed, and working with the administration right now to be able to have better communication and to close those communication loops so that I do have an understanding if something was completed or not. But I usually haven't updated people unless I've received that response from the department. So if there's something you're still having an issue with, feel free to reach back out to me. But I do have I keep a list of all of those, and I've been checking in on all those different requests and complaints from people. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Councilman Donahue, do you have any motions or comments? Sorry, I couldn't hear you. Any motions or comments?
I have nothing at this time.
Okay, thank you. I have a few comments that I'd like to go over briefly. So I hope everybody's doing well. The pandemic still rages in Lackawanna County and throughout the country and the world. So I just want to take a moment to say how sorry I am to all those people in our community and throughout the country and throughout the world who are suffering from this. This is such a unbelievable time to live through. And as I mentioned, I think in June and July, if anyone is suffering in our city from the effects of dealing with this pandemic, you can call 211. That's a line where you can get social services or help with food, anything like that. And if you do have access to a computer, just go to scrantonpa.gov, and there are a ton of resources on there to help you out. There's a few things that I just wanted to check through since we're just coming back from the August recess that I would like an update on. And this is something I've asked about in the past. And I'm just curious to see if, first of all, if it's complete, and second of all, if it is complete, if we did identify any savings. And that was a utility bill audit. The city hired a company, I think last year, to conduct an audit of our utilities to see if we could find any savings. And I remember looking through that legislation, and they provided some examples of other cities, and there was a significant amount of savings that they were able to find. So I am very interested to see what the status of that is. So Mrs. Reed, if you can just send that to the administration and ask them to provide council an update. The other thing, Mrs. Reed, and I know that she's been in contact with the law department. I'm just curious as to when we'll be receiving legislation approving, I think we have to approve the appointment of John Judge as the acting fire chief. And at this point, I think Mary Jo Sheridan. So if we could just double check on that. Also, the Act 47 recommendations, I think I asked last month, and we did send a friendly reminder to the administration. And I think it is important, particularly before the end of the year, to find out where we are as a city in meeting some of those recommendations that were given by the Pennsylvania Economy League in our Act 47 exit plan. We were extended for a period of time in Act 47. There are several recommendations that have just kind of languished out there since I've been on council under the previous administrations. So I am interested to see what the status of those are. Also, the mayor touched on it briefly with the sale of receivables. I would like to get clarification from the administration on when the RFP will go out. I know they're talking about sometime, hopefully in the next few weeks. I just want to state for the record my concern again, and I've stated this to the mayor and to the business administrator about cutting it close with this thing. The sale of receivables is a line item in the budget under sale of assets, and it was pegged for $1.5 million, about roughly $1.5 million. So if that somehow falls through, and we're in September now, these things, as everybody knows, takes time. My concern would be that obviously we would have a significant hole in the budget. So I would like to just ask, first of all, when is this RFP going to go out? And what is the alternate plan if this ends up falling through? In other words, where are we going to get $1.5 million? The next thing was the street sign program. A few years ago, the city entered into a contract with a company that basically modernized technology in the DPW in order for us to better track street signs throughout the city. It's a complaint that I get often about street signs. I think we've made faded street signs and street signs that just don't exist. The city has made, I think, significant progress in moving through some neighborhoods. I still think that there's a lot of work to be done. So I would like an update, Mrs. Reed, if we could, from the DPW on, since this program has been in place and we've been able to really track it, how many street signs have been replaced, where have they been replaced, and what is kind of the plan on how, moving forward on what neighborhoods they're going to attack to replace street signs. Also, Mary Jo Sheridan, who was the chairwoman of the ethics board, resigned and will become city treasurer, which I think is great news. Mary Jo did a great job on the ethics board, and I think she'll do a great job as city treasurer. That does mean that there will be an opening on the ethics board, the council will have to appoint. So I have been talking with Mrs. Reed, and we are going to put out an advertisement in the newspaper to solicit resumes and letters of interest from people who would be interested in serving on that board. There still remains work to be done in getting that board up and running. It has not gone as smoothly as I think everyone would have liked, but the members of the ethics board have really done a good job in trying their best. And I know that they are currently working hard with the administration and the ethics board solicitor to get, I think, a website up and running on the city's website and doing some different things. So we'll see if we can get a very good qualified person for that board. I did want to report on a meeting that I had with several neighbors up on Whitetail Drive this past week, or last week rather. They just had pointed out to me some flooding issues, water runoff issues. So I did send something over to the DPW director, and hopefully can get a meeting with him on that this week to see if there's anything that we can do to mitigate those issues. I also wanted to get an update, Mrs. Reed, on the 2019 audit. I believe that we received an update at the end of June or July. So if we could get in touch with Kohansky Company to get an update on that, that'd be great. And then also in terms of financial projections moving forward, because of the pandemic, as everyone knows, there was concern about, major concern about the effect that it would have on our budget. We did receive an update from the former business administrator, Pat Sheridan, on June 10th, 2020, and he put together a pretty comprehensive report on the way things were looking. And then we were told that at the end of July and September, beginning of September, we'd have a better idea of where we stood financially and what people can expect towards the end of the year. So Mrs. Reed, if we could just send something to the administration and asking them to come to council and give us an update on where those projections stand. And certainly I know they've probably changed, so where they and how they have changed. And the last thing that I just wanted to mention was something that I've been working with the Director of Parks and Recreation, Brian Fallon, on, and the mayor, and that is a new program that I would like the city to unveil. And I think in speaking with Director Fallon and the mayor, that this is going to become a reality, hopefully for next year, is a park ambassador program. I was looking at what other cities do in terms of the engagement between their community and our park system. As everyone knows, we have beautiful parks throughout the city. McLean Park near my house, Crowley Park, Fellows Park. We have a beautiful park in every neighborhood. One of the issues that I see, and I talk with Director Fallon and the mayor about, is the fact that we don't have enough employees in the Parks and Rec department to cover every single park. And they do an outstanding job with the resources that they have and really the lack of manpower that they have. So this park ambassador program would be engaging the community to have people in those neighborhoods near those parks be another set of eyes. And there's people throughout our neighborhoods that do this already. This would formalize the process and would actually make it a program. So I won't go through every single objective here and all that the volunteers would be expected to do. And I will send that out to the rest of council. But the objective, the overall objective here would basically be to bridge the line of communication between our Parks and Recreation Department and our neighborhoods, and to have these volunteers assist the city with the general maintenance, upkeep of the parks, and close observation of the parks, which will enhance not only safety for park visitors, but provide an additional presence to deter crime and vandalism. And I think the most beneficial thing here is that it would encourage the community to take a really proactive approach in maintaining the integrity and intended use of parks and green space throughout the city. The other thing on top of this program that I would like to see the administration engage in the spring and the summer of next year is the potential of a program where there would be actual activities in the parks. I know years ago with, I think CETA workers, there was a CETA program where they would have activities, baseball games, football games. And I don't know exactly what that will look like yet, but it's something that I've spoken to the mayor about. I think it's just another way to get our kids in our neighborhoods and our adults engaged in our park system. As I go through the city, and I think I've mentioned here before all of you at council, because of the pandemic, I've had an opportunity now to drive around the city because there was really nothing else to do, and to take my children to the different parks throughout the city. And our park system is second to none. And we have to do everything that we can to keep it up, to keep it safe, to keep it clean, and to work with our Parks and Recreation Department. And I've been very impressed over the last few weeks with Director Fallon and all of the things that he's been able to do, and with our employees in the Parks and Rec Department. So I think this Park Ambassador Program will serve to help them, to help our city to engage our neighbors in our community. And I'm hopeful that by next spring that will become a reality. And that's all I have. Mrs. Reed?
Thank you. 5B for introduction and ordinance approving and accepting the City of Scranton capital budget for the year 2021 pursuant to Section 904 of the city's Home Rule Charter.
Thank you, Mrs. Reed. At this time, I'll entertain a motion that item 5B be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Second.
On the question? On the question, some of the questions that came up during the caucus tonight. And first of all, I just want to say, I appreciate the mayor, the business administrator, the acting fire chief, and the DPW director for coming and presenting their views and their ideas on this capital budget. That is a breath of fresh air in the city of Scranton. Some of the questions that came up, I think, were really valid from my colleagues on council, and there was 2 or 3 questions that I raised that I'd like answers to prior to final passage of the budget. So I'll get those to you, Mrs. Reed, if we could send those out, and that's all I have. Anyone else on the question? Okay, all those in favor of introduction signify by saying aye.
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 The ayes have it, and so moved.
I'd like to make a motion to authorize the city clerk to place the legal notice in the newspaper to summarize the proposed capital budget and to include locations where the copies of the capital budget can be viewed by the public.
Second.
There's a motion on the floor and a second to place a legal notice in the newspaper for the capital budget. Anyone on the question? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved.
I'd also like to make another motion that we schedule a public hearing for the capital budget to be held on Tuesday, September 15th, 2020 at 5:45 p.m.
Second.
There's a motion on the floor and a second to schedule a public hearing on the capital budget. On the question? Yes, on the question, I would ask that if anyone would like to comment at this public hearing, to please get your comments in writing to our city clerk, Lori Reed. Her email address is lreed@scrantonpa.gov. She will be taking public comment for this specific agenda item in the capital budget until 4:30, the end of business on Tuesday, the day of our council meeting. If you don't have a computer and you can't email, you can send it via US mail to 340 North Washington Avenue, second floor City Hall, City Clerk's office. And as long as that gets to us before Tuesday, we will include that as part of the record for the public hearing. And I personally would like, if people have a chance to go through this and they have any ideas on what they might like to see included on this wish list, or areas that they wish or that they want to see improved throughout the city, that they include that as well, because we do like to hear from the public on these matters. Anyone else on the question? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. The ayes have it, and so moved.
5C for introduction and ordinance. An ordinance authorizing the city of Scranton to enter into an intergovernmental agreement with the County of Lackawanna and the County of Lackawanna Tax Claim Bureau whereby the responsibility and right to collect delinquent real estate taxes from the city of Scranton shall be transferred from the city of Scranton to the Lackawanna County Tax Claim Bureau.
At this time, I'll entertain a motion that item 5C be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Second,
On the question? On the question, the first thing I'd like to say about this is finally. This is a long time coming. It's a long time in the making. I've been pushing for this since 2015. I was dumbfounded back then when the previous administration just would not entertain this. And recent reports about the corruption in that administration proved to me or could give us a good idea on why that the previous administration, the previous mayor would not want to go through with something that literally would save the taxpayers a significant amount of money now that the Tax Claim Bureau will finally be collecting these delinquencies and not a private company. For example, every dollar that the county collects, the city gets roughly 95 cents. Under the agreement with NRS, it was every dollar that they collected, the city got 85 cents. So you can do the math and find out that if you have the two of them, it's a no-brainer to go with the county to collect the delinquent taxes. The one thing that I want to point out here that I think is really important is when we enter into this agreement, we will fall under the umbrella of a program that the county has that I think is really great, and that's the Elderly Extension and Deferral Program. The Elderly Extension and Deferral Program basically helps our elderly residents in the city of Scranton and throughout Lackawanna County. Anyone over 65 years of age or older has an opportunity to extend or defer the period of time to pay their taxes. So the goal of this program was to prevent our hardworking elderly people, those who have worked their whole entire lives, from losing their residences and or the equity in their homes as a result of unpaid real estate taxes. In fact, it was just coincidental that I was on the phone with a woman the other day who was very concerned about not being able to pay her property taxes for 2020 or 2021 as we continue to move forward. So I think this will give people, our senior citizens, peace of mind to know that a private company is not going to come after them and try to kick them out of their homes now. It's going to be the county that has this program that's willing to work with them under certain circumstances. And I think that is very important. In reviewing this legislation, there was a few things that I noticed that will probably have to be changed and amended. And I sent that off to Solicitor Hayes to review. We do have 2 weeks now before we'll present any amendments, but I want to point out two things. Number one, in section 3.1, under certification and transmission of existing delinquent real estate taxes, I know that it should say which are currently due and owing to the city for tax years 2020 and prior, no later than January 31st, 2021. So the years were just wrong there and they need to be changed. And same thing in section 3.2, annual returns of delinquent real estate taxes. The year listed should be 2020. There's some other minor things that I noticed that I pointed out to Solicitor Hayes to get his opinion on. The other thing that I mentioned and that we might want to consider is to extend the termination notice if, in fact, at some point in the future, if this ends up passing, the city or the county want to back out of it, that we extend it from 30 days to 60 days advance written notice. 30 days I don't think is enough time, especially if there's a judicial sale or an upset sale occurring or about to occur. And we also discussed whether or not we would consider maybe adding a clause that allows the city to reserve the right to engage the county to collect delinquent garbage fees in the future. So we're talking about whether or not that would make sense and what that language would look like. So overall, this makes total sense. It made sense a few years ago, but there was roadblocks in place that did not allow the city to move forward. I think the county will be a good partner here, and it's an overall benefit for the taxpayers, and it's an overall benefit for our senior citizens. Anyone else on the question? All those in favor of introduction signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it and so moved.
5D for introduction and resolution, appointment of Mary Beth Mikulajczak, 413 Arthur Avenue, Scranton, Pennsylvania, 18510, as a member of the Scranton Municipal Recreation Authority. Ms. Mikulajczak will be replacing Kathleen Gallagher, who resigned June 18, 2020. Ms. Mikulajczak will be appointed to a 5-year term effective July 9, 2020, and will expire on June 18, 2025.
At this time, I'll entertain a motion that item 5E be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Second.
On the question? I just want to take a minute, and I'll just do this for this legislation, so I'm not commenting on every single one. I want to thank all the people that are being appointed for giving their time, taking time out of their schedules to be a part of a city board or a city commission. I also want to thank those people like Mrs. Gallagher or Miss Gallagher, who took the time out of their schedule and who helped the city immensely over the past few years with their service on these boards. The board that we're speaking about now, the Municipal Recreation Authority, is an extremely important board in the city, and they're a very active board. So I know that Kathleen Gallagher did an outstanding job over the last few years, and I'm confident that all of these new board members will as well. Anyone else on the question?
I would also like to extend the same, Mrs. Gallagher, Mr. Tesserovich. I had the pleasure of working with Mr. Galella and also Mr. Murphy, who I see is coming back to the Planning Commission. So it's great to see him coming back. They've all done a great job.
Anyone else on the question? All those in favor of introduction signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it and so moved.
5E for introduction, a resolution, appointment of Michael Hanley, 800 Woodlawn Street, Scranton, Pennsylvania, 18509, as a member of the board of the Scranton Redevelopment Authority for a 5-year term effective July 10, 2020. Mr. Hanley will be replacing Jean Tesserovich, whose term expired February 4, 2020. Mr. Hanley's term will expire on February 4, 2025.
At this time, I'll entertain a motion that item 5E be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Second.
On the question? All those in favor of introduction signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it and so moved.
5F for introduction, a resolution, appointment of William King, 1310 Ridgewood Avenue, Scranton, Pennsylvania, 18505, as a member of the Scranton City Planning Commission for a 4-year term effective July 13, 2020. William King will be replacing Thomas J. Galella Jr., whose term expired. William King's term will expire on December 31, 2024.
At this time, I'll entertain a motion that item 5F be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Second.
On the question?
I'd like
All
to
those
say
in-
something on the
Oh,
question.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Two great guys here. Tom Galella leaving, great guy. He's
I think you're cutting out. Can anyone else hear Councilman McAndrew? No.
I don't know if that was my connection or yours. It isn't good.
Okay, we can hear you now.
Oh, well, I just want to congratulate both of them. I don't know if you heard what I had to say, but two great guys, one leaving, one coming in. And, he'll do a great job. He's involved with the Steamtown Marathon. I wish both of them well.
Thank you. Anyone else on the question? All those in favor of introduction signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? The ayes have it and so moved.
5G for introduction, a resolution, reappointment of Joseph A. Murphy, 610 Depot Street, Scranton, Pennsylvania, 18509, as a member of the Scranton City Planning Commission, effective July 14, 2020. Mr. Murphy's prior term expired on December 31, 2015, and was held over for a full 4-year term, expiring December 31, 2019. His new term will expire on December 31, 2023.
Bill, you're muted.
Sorry about that. At this time, I'll entertain a motion that item 5G be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Second.
On the question? All those in favor of introduction signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved.
5H for introduction of resolution, appointment of Norma Jeffries, 619 Colfax Avenue, Scranton, Pennsylvania, 18510, as a member of the Scranton Municipal Recreation Authority, effective July 21, 2020. Ms. Jeffries will be replacing Paul D'Antona, who resigned July 2, 2020. Ms. Jeffries will fill the unexpired term of Paul D'Antona, which is scheduled to expire on June 17, 2024.
At this time, I'll entertain a motion that item 5H be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Second.
On the question?
I would
All
just like
those-
to congratulate Mrs. Jeffries on this appointment. You know, she comes to our meetings, you know, up until COVID. She's very involved. She cares about the city. I just think it's great, and I wish her well on this appointment.
I'd like to add to that on the question. I've also known Mrs. Jeffries for some time now, and I know she's very involved and engaged. She has a lot of experience with NAG Park and utilizes it often, and I think will be a great addition to the authority. So I look forward to having her on there, and I appreciate all the appointments that we've had so far that we're going through today. I think we really have a lot of great people to add to these commissions and authorities.
Yes, I agree. She will be great. Anyone else on the question? All those in favor of introduction signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved.
5I for introduction of resolution, appointment of Jane Rissy, 1707 East Gibson Street, Scranton, Pennsylvania, 18510, as a member of the Scranton City Planning Commission, effective July 29, 2020, for a 4-year term. Ms. Rissy will be replacing James Thomas, whose term expired. Jane Rissy's term will expire on December 31, 2024.
At this time, I'll entertain a motion that item 5I be introduced into its proper committee.
So
So
moved.
moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
On the question?
On the question, I just wanted to add that Mrs. Reese is also a neighbor of mine, and she runs the greenhouse project, and she does some amazing work over there. And she's just another really engaged community member who I think will be great on the Civil Service Commission.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All those in favor of introduction signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved.
5J for introduction of resolution authorizing the mayor and other appropriate city officials to execute and enter into a contract with Urban Electrical Contractors Incorporated to perform maintenance of streetlights for a 24-month period.
At this time, I'll entertain a motion that item 5J be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Is there a second
Second.
on the question?
I have some other questions. So, you know, this bid, first of all, I'm not understanding if this was the lowest bid. And I'm not understanding how many people bid. Before I vote on this, And if they aren't the lowest bidder, I'd like to know why, because I own my vote and I like to vote, you know, with all the information. I don't have that information now, but I'm just hearing things. So if we could get that information, or at least for myself, before I vote on this for final passage, I'd appreciate that. Thank you.
I agree. The Joyce Electric was the lowest bidder, but according to the memo, Councilman McAndrew, that was in the backup, they were disqualified due to past performance and concerns. I agree with you, though. I think that we should request more information on that as to what past performance and concerns there were. I think we need, you know, more detail there. I asked Mrs. Reed for the bids of each company. So Mrs. Reed, if you could just send that out to everybody so that they can take a look. I think if you tallied it up as I did, Joyce's bid, or Joyce Electric's bid, was about $25.75 less an hour. I don't know if I added that up right, but so I think we should request some more information there before a final vote. I agree.
Thank you.
Anyone else on the question? All those in favor?
Will you pitch in what you can to help?
All those in favor of introduction signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved.
5K for introduction of resolution authorizing the mayor and other appropriate city officials to execute and enter into a contract with A&M Electrical Construction Incorporated to provide maintenance of traffic signalization for the city of Scranton for a 2-year period.
At this time, I'll entertain a motion that item 5K be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Second.
On the question? On the question, this company was, I believe there was only one bidder here. Yeah, they were the only bidder on this project. All those in favor of introduction signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved.
6th order, 6A, no business at this time. 7th order, 7A, no business at this time.
If there is no further business, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
This meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone. See you next week.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Good night.
Yeah, everyone.